Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Now, what if I told you that you could see the future? And no, I'm not talking about a crystal ball or anything like that. I'm talking about using pure logic. Today, we're going to break down a really powerful mental model that uses the patterns of history, patterns that repeat over and over, to actually design a better future. So let's dive right in.
All right, so here's our game plan. First up, we're going to look at some of these repeating patterns in history, especially in economics. Then I'll introduce you to this big idea, logical time travel, and the simple tool that makes it work. From there, we'll put it to the test with a huge case study, the idea of the world's factory. We'll see how we might be able to avoid the next big crisis, and we'll wrap up by thinking about how this could change the way we all look at the future.
You know that feeling of deja vu, right? That nagging sense that, wait a minute, haven't we seen this movie before? Well, it happens all the time, especially when you look at global economics. It really feels like we're just stuck on this crazy roller coaster, a cycle of these massive booms, followed by really painful busts.
Okay, so think about the title, The World's Factory. It's been passed around like a relay baton for decades. Right after World War II, it was all about the USA. They were the undisputed industrial powerhouse. But as their costs went up, they passed the baton to Japan. And you remember Japan's economic miracle in the 80s, right? But that was followed by a spectacular bubble collapse. So who was next? China. They took the baton, boomed like crazy, and, well, now they're staring down their own massive real estate crisis. You're starting to see the pattern here, aren't you?
So, this leads to the big question, the really crucial one. If these cycles are so darn predictable, why on earth do we keep falling into the exact same traps over and over again? And maybe more importantly, what if we could actually use this knowledge of the pattern to finally break the cycle, to build something that actually lasts, something more sustainable? And this is where a really cool concept comes into play. It's called logical time travel. Now hold on, I know what you're thinking. This isn't about sci-fi, there are no DeLoreans involved. It's actually a super structured way of thinking. It's a mental framework for looking at the past in a new way, so we can make much smarter choices about the future.
So, to put it simply, logical time travel is all about using cold, hard data and logic to compare different periods in time. And the whole point isn't just to be a history buff, right? The goal is to pull out real, actionable insights that can help us solve the massive problems we're facing right now, today.
So how does it work? Well, it's totally data-driven. We're looking at these big 100-year cycles across everything, economics, history, technology, but its real mission, its secret weapon, is solving what are called in-between problems. You know those super tricky challenges that pop up during huge transitions? Kind of like that whole world's factory baton pass we were just talking about.
And the process itself is surprisingly straightforward. It's basically a 5-step plan. First, you pick your time periods, a past, the present, and a future. Step 2, you gather all the info you can get your hands on, historical data, stats, scientific forecasts. Third, you logically rebuild what each era was actually like. Then, the fun part. You compare them and find the patterns. And the final, most important step, you take those insights and apply them to shape better strategies for today. So, how do you keep all this straight? Well, the main tool for this is, and you're gonna love this, it's beautifully simple. It's just a comparison sheet. And this is what takes the whole abstract idea of time travel and makes it totally concrete and something you can actually use.
Let's look at how this works in practice. So here we're comparing Edo Japan from the 1700s, our world today, and a possible future in the year 2200. Right away, you see these massive shifts, right? Look at population. It goes from mostly rural to mostly urban, and then, interestingly, maybe back to a 50-50 split. But what's really fascinating are the echoes from the past. Just notice how the circular lifestyle of Edo Japan, that sustainable way of living, could actually be a blueprint for our future, helping us get away from the incredible waste of today. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, theory is great, but let's get practical. Let's take this whole framework and apply it back to that world's factory problem we talked about at the beginning. This is the perfect real-world case study to see logical time travel in action.
So, just to recap, we saw how the world's factory title moves in this super predictable relay race, and it's all driven by rising costs. It went from the US to Japan to China, and now everyone's looking to see who's next up. All eyes are on India, for sure, but also places like Vietnam and Indonesia are in the running. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Every single time that baton gets passed, the exact same dangerous 3-act drama plays out. It's almost like everyone's following a script they don't even know they have. All right, Act 1, the bubble.
All that rapid growth and money pouring in creates these huge, totally unsustainable bubbles in things like real estate and the stock market. Ringing any bells yet?
Then comes Act 2, the inequality. All the money from the boom? Yeah, it doesn't get shared equally, not even close. You get this new elite class that becomes unbelievably wealthy, while the working class gets left further and further behind. And that, of course, creates all kinds of social tension and instability. And that brings us to the inevitable finale, Act 3, the aftermath. Because the bubble, it always bursts. There's no exception. And when it does, it leaves a real mess behind. A mountain of debt, social unrest, and usually years and years of economic stagnation. Japan had its famous lost decade, and right now, China is facing its own version of that very same reckoning.
So, that brings us to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? Can we finally rewrite the script for the next country in line? Can a place like India take these lessons from Japan and China and actually forge a different, more stable path for itself? Okay, let's pull out our comparison sheet again and make a forecast. You can see the risk is there, that same potential for a bubble economy, but you also see India's unique strengths, things like its incredible IT and software industry. So the key challenge for India, if they're going to learn from the past, is going to be all about stable governance and smart policies to manage the boom without the inevitable bust.
And what this analysis gives us is a clear blueprint. It's about foresight, not hindsight, right? A country like India could actually get ahead of this cycle. They could strengthen real estate rules early. They could invest heavily in educating their workforce, not just rely on low-wage jobs. They could mandate green manufacturing from day one and make sure there are strong labor protections to stop that extreme inequality that caused so many problems before.
But, this way of thinking isn't just for economists or policymakers. This idea can scale up into something way, way bigger. It could become a new standard for how all of us think about the future.
Because really, this isn't just about playing defense and avoiding disaster. It's about playing offense. It's a creative tool for actually designing a better world. It's about empowering every single person to understand the huge forces that are shaping their lives and to take an active part in what comes next.
And that brings us to the ultimate vision here. It's this idea that when we share information about these historical patterns and future possibilities openly, it stops being a tool for experts and becomes a tool for co-creation. It's a way for us to build a richer society that's based on the happiness of its people, not just on endless conflict and crisis.
Just imagine for a second. What if entire populations understood that three-act drama of the economic bubble? They could demand better from their leaders. They could push for policies that create long-term stability instead of just chasing short-term gains. Really, an informed public is the ultimate check and balance to stop us from repeating the mistakes of the past. You could call it democratic foresight.
So I'll leave you with this one final thought. Look, this isn't about predicting winning lottery numbers or anything like that. It's about learning to recognize the deep rhythms of history so that we can compose a better future. So the question is, what kind of future could we really build? In our own communities, in our countries, and across the world, if we all learned how to travel through time, logically.